In Israel and in much of the world, Iron Dome needs no introduction. After 7 years defending against more than 1,700 Gaza-launched rockets, Iron Dome has come to symbolize Israeli ingenuity abroad, while at home, it's a generic term for any national effort aimed at fortifying security. Against tunnels at the Gaza border, Israel is erecting an underground Iron Dome. Against hackers and cyber threats, the goal here is a digital Iron Dome.
We're aiming to establish what I like to call the digital Iron Dome.
But with Israel and Iran headed for military confrontation in Syria, and with Hezbollah's 100,000-plus heavy rockets and missiles threatening from Lebanon, Israel's newest front line of defense, a system known here as David Sling, is sure to become the next household word in the coming war in the north. Designed to serve as the heavy lifting layer of Israel's multi-tiered network, David Sling defends hundreds of square kilometers of airspace. It bridges lower-tier, localized threats handled by Iron Dome and the upper-tier Arrow that aims to destroy much longer-range, possibly nuclear-tipped ballistic missiles in space.
You can compare it to any kind of system you can imagine. Dealing with any kind of threat from the ground, from the surface, up to the atmosphere, the end of the atmosphere.
In addition to short-range ballistic missiles and long-range artillery rockets, like the Iranian Kashay destroyed last month on Syrian soil, David Sling is also designed to defend against cruise missiles and other so-called air-breathing threats, like the Iranian drone launched from Syria that was shot down over Israel earlier this year.
It's not like Iron Dome, whose threats were defined as custom rockets of short range. In David Sling, we know how to look far enough in the future to determine what threats we would face and what scenarios David Sling would need to give answers to.
Unlike Iron Dome, which uses an explosive warhead to destroy incoming targets, David Sling's dolphin-shaped radar and electro-optically guided missile, called the Stunner, destroys threats through sheer force of impact. It's like hitting a bullet with a bullet.
It's the first missile in the world that is hit to kill. Due to its low weight, can be produced at lower prices, and we can launch it and will succeed in hitting the target. Not only hitting the target, but the explosive material in the incoming threats can be exploded in the air. So everything that falls to the ground will be devoid of explosives, and thus it's much less dangerous to the people on the ground.
And unlike Iron Dome, which was developed exclusively in Israel, David Sling's Stunner is the product of joint development led by Israel's state-owned Rafael and its U.S. partner Raytheon.
Our partnership with Raytheon is actually started more than 12 years ago, as I said before, with great opportunities. 50% of the David Sling are developed in the U.S. under Raytheon, and of course the production as well.
Now, the seeds of a partnership that have thus far been limited to Israel's defense are starting to bear fruit in support of U.S. allies.
The Polish government decided to buy the Patriot system, and decided also that part of the system will be the Sky Scepter. Sky Scepter is the name of the Stunner interceptor as part of the David Sling system. David Sling system interceptor called, the name is Stunner, and the brand, the name with the US standard under Raytheon leading is Sky Scepter.
If all goes according to plan, the first David Sling-derived export contract should be signed later this year, with the joint Stunner missile provided by Raytheon under the new brand name Sky Scepter.
Sky
Scepter is the Stunner interceptor that is adapted to US and NATO standards in a way for it to be integrated into Raytheon's Patriot network. It is in fact a missile that is the Stunner, and the system that supports it will be the Patriot.
And Poland is just the beginning. Partners are eyeing all 14 other nations around the globe who operate Patriot, including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE, with their shared threat from Iran.
One of the great things that happened is the Poland deal for missile defense, the $4.3 billion deal 2 weeks ago, is including the David Sling of Israel. So that weapon system that you've created to intercept that's higher than the Iron Dome and below the THAAD is now as a real system in another foreign country that's going to do that. And we need to do more of that because you've got some great technologies that have been developed.
Could, in the foreseeable future, rebranded Israeli technology from David Sling help protect Sunni Gulf states from an array of Iranian threats?
Without a doubt, these countries are under rocket and ballistic missile threat. The decision to equip is a government decision. It's something that has to be coordinated between the US government and the government of Israel. The sensitivities are clear. These are very important systems for defending the state of Israel, and we wouldn't want them to fall in places where information can be leaked. On the other hand, it's clear what the advantage is in those countries that you mentioned, that they will better be protected with systems like David Sling.